Talks on a US-brokered partial ceasefire in Ukraine are set to resume on Monday in Saudi Arabia. Talks are expected to focus on Black Sea security and energy infrastructure. Meanwhile, discussions of an international peacekeeping force and European defence plans continue. What are the prospects for peace? Well, joining us is Mark Montgomery. He's Senior Director at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Mr. Montgomery, welcome to TP World, and thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure, sir. So what are we expecting the talks to cover on Monday?
Well, I think first they're going to have to clarify exactly what is electrical infrastructure, because and the infrastructure that they've agreed to not strike, because as you may know, the minute Vladimir Putin hung up the phone with Donald Trump after their last call, Russian strikes hit a significant amount of critical infrastructure in Ukraine. So I think the first thing is to define what electrical infrastructure is, what critical infrastructure is, and determine what the ceasefire is about, because you need to have a common set of facts. Once they have that set, they can go into the next stage of discussions.
So we're not even sure yet what is covered in the peace talks regarding infrastructure. Now, there is a perception, isn't there, Mr. Montgomery, that President Trump is caving in to a lot of Putin's demands without asking for more in return. I'm thinking about Crimea, the Black Sea, Ukraine not joining NATO. The list is quite long. What do you say to those comments?
Well, I think it's very accurate to say that President Trump conducted a maximum pressure campaign against Ukraine, got them probably way too early to concede what they would agree to get to a ceasefire in terms of where the line of demarcation and such, and the critical minerals deal with the United States. President Trump has failed to run that same kind of maximum pressure campaign against Vladimir Putin. And until he does that, I don't think you'll ever get real concessions from Russia or from Putin until he feels pressure, whether it's sanctions, increased weapons deliveries, increased intelligence sharing between the U.S. and Ukraine. Without those kind of things, particularly anchored in the sanctions, I don't think you're going to get real change in President Putin's bargaining position.
Do you see this, Mr. Montgomery, as a strategy by President Putin to just keep the talks going while they keep bombing Ukraine?
For sure, he's delaying until he has all of Kursk region captured. And I do think he would like to see how much more pressure he can bring on Ukraine. Ukraine has perturbations in its force structure right now because there was a temporary cutoff of munitions. There's a perception that the United States is not starting new munitions purchases for Ukraine. So there's some likelihood that he'll continue to press and pressure until he feels pressure himself. He's an autocrat. Who illegally invaded Ukraine. I don't know why he would stop at this point unless he feels pressure.
Okay, now you mentioned supplies, military supplies for Ukraine. Is the European Union or Europe in general prepared to step into the breach here?
So first, the good news is the breach is going to still have a lot of American equipment coming into it, both Presidential Drawdown Authority and Ukrainian security initiative and assistance initiatives, which were purchases for Ukraine from our defense industrial base, will be flowing in over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months. The difference is if the United States doesn't put new orders in, that won't be fulsome in the later months, 6, 9, 12 months from now, and it will then peter off completely. That's where the Europeans have to step in. So hopefully there'll be some increase by the United States, some return to some level by the United States. But then your point is right. The Europeans have to step in there. Now, the sad truth is their defense industrial base means they're going to have to step in by probably buying some things from America and some things from European companies until they rebuild the European defense industrial base, which basically died off starting in the early 1990s.
Right. Now, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station is one of the negotiating issues between Ukraine and Russia. Now, President Trump has said, America will take over the running of that power station, which President Zelensky has been completely against. How do you think this is going to play out? Because clearly it's a vital source of energy for Ukraine. What do you think is going to happen?
And I'd add one third wild card in, which is Putin, through his acolytes, has made it clear he has no intention of giving it up. So you have three parties in here. I'd say the United States is the weakest case. I happen to operate U.S. nuclear reactors during my naval career, and these are slightly different or somewhat different reactors. So this is not our natural home turf. They need to be operated by Ukrainians. They need to be returned. Zaporizhzhia needs to be returned to Ukraine. And it's going to take a lot of money and safety checks to get it back up and operational. It's had drone strikes, some artillery strikes. While they're in a shutdown condition now, to get it started back up will take some time. But Putin's not going to give up on this easy. This is going to need part of that maximum pressure campaign to get Putin's grisly hands off of it.
Right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Montgomery, for your analysis. We'll be watching carefully and hope you'll come back and share some more with our audience. Have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Well, as we mentioned earlier, today is Earth Water Day, and Earth Water Hour starts in just a minute or so in Poland at 8:30 p.m. Central European Time. And this is how it's being acknowledged in the centre of Warsaw. So that's what the Palace of Culture looks like in the centre of town. And in about 20 seconds, actually, all the lights will go off, which is the traditional way of acknowledging Earth Hour as lights go off around the world at about the same time. So you've got about 5 seconds and counting. So wait for it, and here we go.